Situated deep in the heart of a sleepy, ancient town stood the Willowbrook Orphanage, its stories embedded in the weathered bricks and carved into the towering willow trees that gracefully veiled its front facade from the world. There was an air of faded grandeur about it, with its ivy-covered red bricks, peaked roofs, and narrow, whimsical windows that sparkled like jewels under the moonlight. The building had amassed a rich collection of whispered tales, laughter, tears, and love within its heart over centuries. But beneath this charming exterior existed a different world, a world that hummed with spirits unseen, spirits that the orphanage called its unseen guardians, simply because of the odd occurrences that put the building alive. In this world of the unseen, antique porcelain dolls winked grotesquely in the dead of night, their tiny porcelain hands moving ever so slightly as if beckoning an unseen companion. Teddy bears drew closer to each other, their fabric bodies tangling in a spectral jostle, while empty swings creaked back and forth, haunted by the merry rhythm of invisible children. And sometimes a child too brave or too innocent would claim to feel an icy draught flutter down their spine when they ventured into the attic's forgotten shadows, or hear soft, whispered lullabies murmuring from the supposedly empty rooms. Despite these spectral shenanigans, an atmosphere of warmth and care permeated the orphanage, an inexplicable bond between the seen and unseen. The mysterious happenings often had a kind undertone, as if the unseen inhabitants were watching over the orphanage's young charges. Perhaps it was because of these unseen guardians the Willowbrook Orphanage managed to preserve its ageless charm against the relentless march of time. And so, life in Willowbrook Orphanage got along in its usual way, filled with innocent laughter, an assortment of mischief, bits of sorrow and shared joy, all under the watchful eyes of their unseen companions. And, in the heart of this unique world, our story begins to unravel, spinning a timeless yarn of bravery, friendship, mystery, and above all, love. The twists and turns that emerge are nothing short of extraordinary, as both seen and unseen band together to save their beloved Willowbrook from the claws of a danger that lurks in the shadows, a danger that goes by the name of an unscrupulous villain. On the outskirts of this rustic town, in a grandiose mansion that bore an air of impeccable arrogance, resided the wealthy developer, Mr. Hadrian Blackthorne. A man as formidable as his name, with slitted eyes that gleamed like ice under a silver moon, and a face cast in perpetual shadow, softened only by a devilishly charming smile that never reached his cold, unfeeling eyes. He was a man who valued two things, power and wealth, and would stop at nothing in his pursuit to claim either. Willowbrook Orphanage had been a thorn in Blackthorne's side for quite some time now. It sat on precious land, a prime real estate parcel that he sought to convert into his next big project, the Blackthorne Empire, a luxurious, gleaming hotel that would tower over the sleepy town, casting long shadows that reminded the denizens of who ruled them. Blackthorne had made a generous offer to the orphanage board to buy the property. Each board member was approached separately, flattered, cajoled, and promised a share of profit. But the board, made of old pillars of the town, who remembered the orphanage's founder fondly, and who had personally seen the miraculous transformation of countless young lives, turned a deaf ear to Blackthorne's promises. Their refusal was conveyed in a single crisp letter filled with words of determination and commitment to protect a sanctuary for the orphans, which ignited anger in Blackthorne's heart. His eyes mirrored a storm brewing in his mind, his clenched fists indicative of his stubborn resolve to acquire the orphanage, come what may. As of this moment, Willowbrook Orphanage is mine, Blackthorne decreed, his voice a menacing whisper that slithered through his opulent office, shattering the silence in its wake. Little did he know that Willowbrook Orphanage held far more than just a group of resilient board members. It indeed had unseen guardians who had loved, protected, and cherished the building and its youthful inhabitants, forging a bond that couldn't be severed by the icy blade of greed or the searing flames of a developer's ambition. Mr. Blackthorne, accustomed to having his way, now turned the heat of his wrath towards the undefended Willowbrook Orphanage. At the break of dawn, citizens of the town found faux eviction notices plastered across the town's notice boards, claiming the orphanage's closure. Telephone lines of the orphanage were tampered, disrupting their connection with the outside world. Even the water and electricity supply started acting peculiar, functioning intermittently, adding a layer of discomfort and uncertainty to the serenity of the orphanage. These unrelenting attacks cast a shadow of despair over Willowbrook Orphanage. Adults were worried, constantly huddled together in grim discussions. Yet, they strove to retain an air of normalcy for the children who seemed to remain obliviously immersed in their world of laughter and games. Amongst these children was young Lila, a precocious 11-year-old who possessed an uncanny sensitivity towards the unseen. She had almond-shaped eyes that were older than her age, sparkling with relentless curiosity and a veil of mystery. Lila had joined the Willowbrook family at a tender age of 3. She had since then accepted the ghostly phenomena as part of her life, occasionally noting the intensity of paranormal happenings around her. But even young Lila, astute as she was, noticed that something wasn't quite right. The influx of supernatural occurrences had not only become more frequent, but also more intense. Rocking chairs groaned under unseen weights. The dusty old grandfather clock, previously silent now, tolled ominously at odd hours, while invisible pianist played haunting melodies on the ancient moth-eaten piano. With a simplistic wisdom unique to her, Lila understood that something was disturbing their spectral companions, eliciting the heightened and frantic activity. She wondered whether it had something to do with the strange grown-up talks, the eviction posters in town she had illegibly read, and the aggravating utilities causing uproar. Determined to unravel the mystery and protect her home, Lila decided to venture into this grown-up world of conflicts, navigating a path that was destined to cross with Blackthorne himself. Unbeknownst to all, the unseen protectors of Willowbrook had started rallying. The battle between the avaricious villain and the invisible guardians was about to unfurl, and Lila, with her innocent courage and enduring love for the orphanage, was to be its unsuspecting hero. Lila was no stranger to the spectral inhabitants of the orphanage, but conversing with these unseen presences was a new and exciting frontier she hadn't explored before. With a soft-spoken courage, she began reaching out to the unseen, her voice a fragile whisper begging for connection. And to her surprise, the unseen worlds responded, whispering back to her in gusts of wind, in the rustling of the willow trees, and in the erratic ticking of the old grandfather clock. And thus, the windows opened to an entirely new dimension, a realm that was teeming with love, memories, and timeless stories of the 3 unseen guardians of Willowbrook. One spirit was a sweet, nurturing presence that smelled distinctly of lavender and fresh bread and seemed to carry an aura of healing. This was Amelia, a young maiden who had lived in the orphanage during an era when scarlet fever had claimed many lives, including hers. But in death, she had found a purpose to provide comfort and heal those in pain. Another was mischievous, like a swirling gust of wind playing with autumn leaves. Edward was his name. A vibrant boy who had breathed his last too early, he now spent his days spinning tales of adventure and spooking the orphans with his playful ways. It was he who was responsible for the moving toys and the giggles that echoed through the orphanage in the stillness of the night. And then there was Gertrude, the oldest of them all. A stern, matronly spirit whose cobwebbed whispers told tales of the orphanage's inception and stood like an invisible fortress against any harm that sought to befall the orphanage. A timeless warden of the young souls that found solace within the walls of Willowbrook. In the quiet solitude of the night, all of these spirits murmured their tales to Lila, each voice painting a vivid picture of a time long past. United they stood in their love for Willowbrook, Their spectral strength seeped into the foundation of their beloved home, continuing their endless vigil. Lila, now armed with the knowledge of her spectral companions, felt a surge of determination. She knew she wasn't alone in her mission to protect Willowbrook. Together, they were stronger. Together, they could stand against the tide threatening to engulf their haven. And the battle against Mr. Blackthorn was only just beginning. As Blackthorn's underhanded tactics began to leave a heavy impact, the specters of Willowbrook spun into spectral action. As prolonged blackouts plunged the orphanage into unsettling darkness, it was Amelia's tranquility that blanketed the children, her comforting presence easing their fear-stricken hearts. The scent of lavender and bread wafting through the dormitories at night was a balm to their fretting minds, a maternal lullaby that gently put them to sleep. Edward, the playful soul, found a challenging playground in Blackthorn's henchmen, who frequently prowled around the orphanage to scare the little inhabitants. He spooked them with an impish glee, making objects float around mysteriously and let out ghostly whispers that sent chills down their spines. He revelled in the comedy of their fright, leaving them quaking and reluctant to carry on with their employer's sinister tactics. As for Gertrude, the spectral matriarch, she chose her young confidant, Lila, to weave the truth of Blackthorn's schemes. Her whispers echoed in Lila's dreams, as clear as a moonlit river and as persistent as a haunting melody. "Protect Willowbrook, Lila," she intoned, her voice carrying an urgency that startled Lila awake. "Blackthorn will stop at nothing," her warnings echoed even when Lila was wide awake. Days turned into nights and nights into days as this continued. Lila started to understand the intricacies of Blackthorn's plans, his desire to evict the children and demolish their home, all to feed his insatiable greed. Lila bore the weight of this knowledge, a heavy secret that burdened her young soul. Their laughter was shadowed by this looming menace, threatening to devour their home. Yet they began to fight back subtly, encouraged and guided by their unseen guardians. These actions filled Willowbrook with a new energy, a spirit of determination and defiance. They would not surrender their home to the heartless developer, they decided. A battle, silent yet momentous, was about to unfold under the watchful branches of the old willow trees. Little did Mr. Blackthorn know, he had not only underestimated the orphanage's board, but also the unseen guardians who considered the orphanage their sanctuary as much as the children did. Halfway through this extraordinary journey, Lila found herself with immense responsibility. She, however, was not alone. Human or spirit, they stood as one against Blackthorn's avarice. With the encouragement of Amelia, Edward, and Gertrude, Lila embarked on a new endeavour, gathering evidence against Blackthorn. She called upon her best friends, the delightfully imaginative Thomas, the level-headed and brave Sue, and the tech whiz-kid, Benny. Together, they formed a ragtag team of pint-sized detectives, their determination shining brighter than the mischief in their eyes. Armed with Benny's expertise, they managed to scrounge up a few battered tape recorders and cameras from the orphanage's obsolete tech pile. With a daunting mission ahead, they started planting the recorders and cameras around the orphanage's periphery, cleverly hidden and safe. Lila urged Gertrude to alert them when Blackthorn or his minions were near, intending to capture every incriminating conversation. Night after night, they huddled in the attic, hunched over a rudimentary setup of various devices cobbled together by Benny. They sifted through hours of vague whispers and muffled conversations. There were missteps and disappointments that dampened their spirits, but they soldiered on, spurred by Gertrude's encouraging whispers and Edward's timely mischief that kept their spirits uplifted. Finally, their perseverance bore fruit. One chilly evening, as Lila's young hands fumbled with a tape recorder, Gertrude's whisper floated in, signaling a crucial conversation. As the tape whirred and crackled, a chillingly familiar voice floated out, unmistakably Blackthorn's, outlining his dastardly plans with a chilling laugh that echoed through the quiet attic room. Their young hearts pounded with thrill and fear, mixed with a sense of victorious accomplishment. They had tangible proof against Blackthorn now, a weapon they could retaliate with. The journey had only just begun. The real challenge lay in bringing this clandestine evidence to light, to the eyes and ears of those who held the power to thwart Blackthorn's efforts. Their task was mammoth, but their spirit was invincible. The spirits of Willowbrook and their young charges prepared for the final showdown, the outcome of which held the fate of their beloved home. A town hall meeting was organized one sun-dappled afternoon in protest against Blackthorn's attempt to seize Willowbrook. The orphanage board, townsfolk and children from the orphanage thrummed with an intense mix of fear, anger, and resolute determination. Nestled amidst the townsfolk, barely visible, Lila clutched their incriminating evidence, her heart pounding like the rhythmic beat of a war drum. Her friends, huddled close, offered her encouraging smiles, their hands tightly interlaced. They were seething balls of nervous excitement, ready to explode any moment. Blackthorn was present too, his wolves in sheep's clothing smile on display as he assured everyone of his benign motives. His oily words hung heavy in the room like a veil of suffocating smoke. When the time was ripe, Lila stood up, a spark of courage in her eyes, amplifying her tiny, confident voice. With a quivering hand, she handed over the tape recorder to the chairperson of the town's council, the custodian of justice in their community. As the councilman played Blackthorn's incriminating conversation, the crowd echoed with gasps and mutterings. Murmurs swelled into an uproar as the once charismatic developer was uncloaked in sinister shades of greed and deception. Blackthorn's eyes widened in bewildered horror, his confident facade crumbling like sandcastles caught in a wave. More than the anger, it was the crushing waves of disappointment in the room that finally destroyed Blackthorn's iron nerve. His advocates withdrew, his livelihood crumbled, and he found himself facing the wrath of the law, driven into a corner by a group of brave orphans and their spectral guardians. The confrontation marked the triumph of good over evil, of precious love over rampant greed. Little did people know, behind the brave faces of the children stood an ethereal army of spectral protectors, their unseen spirits weaving a cocoon of steadfast protection around their home, the enchanted, resolute Willowbrook Orphanage. Post the confrontation, the sky seemed bluer over the Willowbrook Orphanage, the sun more radiant, and the old willows more resplendent. News about the brave rescuers spread far and wide, and heartfelt accolades began pouring in from every corner of the town, their hearts touched by this inspirational saga of valor and teamwork. Inspired citizens, from rich businessmen to humble artisans, began donating generously towards the orphanage. The old building was renovated, ensuring preserved historical accents met modern comforts, turning the quaint and mysterious old haven into a vibrant, loving abode for countless more orphans to come in the future. The children beamed under the exhilaration of their triumph, each one feeling braver and stronger than before. Especially Lila, who had emerged as the unexpected heroine, the young beacon of courage and hope. Time, however, had one more surprise in store for her. A warm-hearted city couple, moved by her courage and honesty, decided they wanted this fierce little girl to be part of their family. It was a tough decision for Lila. The orphanage was her home, where Amelia, Edward, and Gertrude and her friends resided. But the couple was warm and inviting as well, a new adventure, a new chapter waiting to unfold. Lila, wise beyond her years, decided to accept their offer but made a heartwarming promise. A promise to return, to keep visiting her first home and maintain the spectral connection she had fostered so preciously. She promised to keep sharing the laughter and wisdom of her secret friends with the new ones who would come after her, ensuring the legacy of the unseen guardians lived on. As Lila left Willowbrook Orphanage that crisp morning, she didn't look back with sadness. She looked back with a sense of pride, her heart etched with the timeless tales of bravery, resilience, and the magic of unseen friendship, ready to embark on a new journey towards her bright future under the watchful eyes of her ethereal friends. Thus, the enchanting tale of unseen guardians, swirling with spectral giggles of Edward, comforting lullabies of Amelia, and stern whispers of Gertrude, came to a gentle pause, leaving behind a trail of warmth and courage for those who came across the saga of the ghosts that saved Willowbrook. The chapters thereafter were yet to be written. They remained, tucked in the yonder, waiting to be unfurled and whispered in the quiet of the nights, when the moon shone brightly over Willowbrook Orphanage. Under the diamond-studded canvas of night, Willowbrook Orphanage came alive with deep-rooted mysteries and playful specters. A cold breeze rustled through the rippling willow leaves, stirring the melodies of wind chimes into soulful tunes. The hoot of an owl added a soft bass to the orchestra of the night, a lullaby whispered into the tranquil silence. Over this surreal symphony, ghostly strains of laughter bubbled up, a delightful mix of the inhabitants, both from this world and the next. Edward romped vivaciously through the rooms, his laughter lingering behind like wisps of phoenix feathers, intertwined with the delighted squeals of children that he'd successfully spooked. Elsewhere, Amelia's tender voice hummed soft, healing tunes, her lullabies embracing the sleeping children, easing their tiny, troubled hearts and soothing them into peaceful dreams. The introverted Gertrude occupied the quiet corners, her presence subtly announced in the soft rustling of ancient parchment and the delicate aroma of time-forgotten wisdom. From every crevice, every nook and cranny, echoed the harmonious cadences of joy, of hope, and the triumphant song of resilience. It was a living testament to the magical encounter that had solidified the bond between the palpable and the spectral, a story that would be whispered into the ears of future residents with hushed reverence and twinkling eyes. As the Willowbrook Orphanage bathed in the soft moonlight, an echo of the past reverberated through its time-worn walls into the present and future, a soothing reminder of the extraordinary triumph that resonated in each echoing laughter, in every fluttering lullaby. It was a token of a story that marked its history, guardians unseen, their power unfathomable, their love for their home unyielding and eternal. This was Willowbrook Orphanage, a realm where magic and reality dance together, where every echoing, haunting lullaby, every ghostly giggle held a profound history that whispered into the night, offering a story, a legend to those who dared to listen and believe. Thus, the unseen guardians continued their timeless vigil over the orphanage, over the echoes of innocent laughter, their presence gently woven into the fabric of the night, the legacy of their timeless story immersed in every brick of the orphanage they loved so dearly.